It's about therapy, of course. How long have you been going to therapy?
Do I need to push anything?
No.
Oh, cool. Okay. I've been going to therapy for probably collectively 2 years. But that's happened over the course of maybe 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I just got back into therapy. Actually, my first appointment is Tuesday.
Oh shit! So you found a new therapist then?
I found a new therapist.
Well, okay. I want to get to that.
Okay.
I want to get to that. I definitely want to get to that. That's the part at the end I want to get to. Though.
Okay.
Okay. So let me finish this question. So, how would you say therapy has helped you grow or change over the years?
I think that I think it's given me an opportunity to actually be self-aware. I mean, I don't think I'm fully self-aware. It's maybe not as much as I think, but it's definitely giving me true anchor points in reality to kind of reflect on a lens to reflect on myself through, if that makes sense. Yeah. And most importantly, at a really basic level, it gives me somebody to talk to that's unbiased and to express myself, especially as somebody who's very much a verbal processor. I have to get things out. It's really nice to have someone that I can trust to keep my best interests and be paying attention to my story over the past and really help me work through things in a way that I really think I am in my own head. But we all know there's so many things going on. It's like a live notebook.
Yeah. No, that's actually a fire ass way to put it. A live notebook.
Yeah.
One thing you said that stood out though. You said that I'm pretty sure they can hear me though. One thing you said that stood out was that a place for somebody to hear you that's kind of neutral. Yeah. Right? We all know that in therapy, that kind of it teeters from being on your side to being neutral to being against you. Talk about that journey.
I mean, I respect it. I can appreciate that, like you said, sometimes they are on my side, sometimes they're against me. And sometimes it really is neutral, depending on what part of my story we're kind of going through. But, I don't know. I've always just had a really good appreciation for it. I don't really know how to, I've never thought about that specifically. And I think that's why therapy was so easy for me to, be attracted to right away. Because I've always wanted, I, really enjoy the back and forth. I like being challenged. Because I really want to be better. I was one of those people who, started with self-help books. And now that made me like reading. Yeah. So, I've always been somebody who's been, invested in the journey of becoming, a better person in my, for myself, in my own head. Yeah. And, where I'm at now, because I started therapy when I was, 21, 22, and now I'm 29. And even that experience is different because I'm so much more confident. So, the way that I'm presenting things to them, and the type of feedback that I'm welcome to is totally different now than it was back in the beginning.
Yeah, that's real.
Yeah.
That's real.
Yeah.
You said that you went from self-help books to therapy. Talk about the difference, because a lot of people think all right, well, which is true. If you can't afford a therapy, self-help book
it's
can
a good
be
way
a good
to
way
start.
to get you started. Yeah. But talk about some of the difference between the two.
Well, first of all, when you're having a conversation in therapy, a lot of the time you are opening up, but it is also very much like a conversation. So the live feedback is important. Yeah. Versus a self-help book, in my experience, they're generally kind of giving you some sort of method to deal with things, or some sort of framework of thought to deal with things. So that's more you're practicing for something, rehearsing, you're learning a system or something that's going to help you cope, versus an actual conversation with an actual human, where you're being challenged, like we just talked about, and also being supported in a way that you may not have known you needed. So it's a totally different experience, which is true for everything. Can I cuss?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Which is true for literally everything. The need for human interaction is really significant. Yeah. And ultimately you're going to therapy to feel a little bit better in your body, and even though your therapist is the person you're going to for that, they're also a human too. So I don't know, just that point is just really important, I guess.
Yeah. One thing I heard though was that you said that it's kind of good to have your ideas challenged.
Yeah. Absolutely.
In a book, You going through it, and you can kind of like, if we're being real, and even with the self-help books, even though sometimes they can be straightforward, you can kind of make it what the fuck you want them to think. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh,
you can
for sure.
make them what they want to. Like, they can be on your side, they can be against you.
It's just your perspective. Like, you're reading the book from your perspective, and like that's the whole point of human interaction, is to get another perspective like that. You know. So you can make anything up to like work with your frame of thought. Of course.
Now, when it comes specifically to challenging, talk about that part, because when you challenge yourself, especially in that therapeutic setting, you can challenge your whole identity. You can come out a completely different person, and some people just not ready for that.
Yeah. I mean, that's really difficult. And, like, some days it's easier than others. Because if you're having a good day and that happens, like, it's easy to, like, you know, I'm still good, you know? Like, I know I got things to work on. And then there are days where you're, like, already, you know, as a human in your little lull of the month or whatever. And, like, I don't know. It's really hard. It could really break you down. But it's a part of the practice of, like, of the repetition of building yourself back up, you know, and that's why therapy, depending on like what you're going through, is important, because it can also be like a support system, like a built-in support system of you getting the repetition of you challenging yourself and trying to be a better person. And I think ultimately, like, that's kind of the role that I'm trying to get it to play in my life, because I'm doing the work regardless. At least I think I am. And so when I'm in therapy, it's just giving me a little bit more clarity on the things that I want to work on, and it's also like a safe place for me to kind of recover from the shit I went through in my head this week over what we talked about last week. You know what I mean? So consistency with therapy is also really important too. That's something that that's like a deal, like a non-negotiable for me when I'm looking for a therapist. Like, it has to be something that I can do regularly, because it's when you're in a space where you're actively trying to be vulnerable with yourself, it's really hard, because I have to be vulnerable with myself. Like, right now I want to be able to have these conversations with you, but I also have to be able to do it with you and still be true to myself. And so it's little things like that. Like, it's exhausting emotionally and mentally, trying to uphold the best version of yourself as you're learning who that person is on a daily basis.
No, 100%. 100%.
Did that answer your question?
No, that was a fucking gem. Yeah,
Okay.
that was a fucking gem. I'm letting you go because we're going to clip that up. That's what we all do. Consistency. I noticed one thing. Let me see. Just put it this way a little bit. When I'm consistently seeing a client, if they come, boom, 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 we get to the point we had like 6 weeks, 8 weeks. If they miss a session, I have to go back.
Yeah.
Like, talk to that. Missing a session and having to build that back up.
Yeah, I mean, you should not miss a session. You really shouldn't miss a session, because, like you said, you have to go back and build everything back up. And also, I think because you're in such an open space with your thoughts, it's really easy to also overthink things. Like, that's the other part of kind of opening up this Pandora's box of therapy, is getting too deep in your head and, like, setting the boundaries with yourself to be like, now's not a good time, turn the music up, we're gonna get out of this thought. So when you're going to therapy consistently, I think it gives you the space to have the thought, step away from it, have the thought, step away from it. All right, now it's time to talk in therapy, and now we're kind of collectively thinking about all those thoughts that came up. But then when you miss a week, and if you're every other week, now that means you've only been to a therapist once this month, and your brain's probably been running rampant, and you've been in therapy for 6 to 8 weeks, so you're already opening up these, like, all these other things are open in you, and you're not doing what you need to do to keep it all under control.
No, 100%.
You know what I mean? 100%. So consistency is key. And also, your therapist is seeing other therapists. I mean, I don't know if this is true, but in my head, it was always just like, I want to make sure that, you know, what I'm going through is staying relevant to them too. I don't know how the back end works, but I think that, like, it's really important. And for, like, again, if you're really open, starting the therapy journey, and you're really truly being honest with your therapist and, like, opening up, you're gonna be raw on the inside. And, like, that's just what it is until you work through whatever the most pressing issues are, to the point, you know, like, where it seems less heavy. But, like, I know when I first started therapy, I was, like, crying in therapy, crying when I left therapy, crying thinking about therapy a couple days later. And, like, it took me a while to, like, be less sensitive to the things that we talked about. But that's just also because I'm a crybaby and I like to cry. So
no, that's good though. That's good. You said when you first started therapy, you was raw. Define what raw is. What do you mean by that?
Like, And like I just said, like thinking about everything a lot more specifically. And when you talk to your therapist, like there's like the first like session and a half, in my experience, I'm like, giving them the basic like map, right? Like my very first therapy session, the very first thing she said was, okay, let's start from the earliest memory you have and up until now.
Yeah.
And that's how therapy started. And so as I was telling her things, she would also like make connections to like, obviously for her, she was just trying to make sure she understood the story. But to me, now you're telling me about my life from a whole different perspective. And so that gives me something new to think about. And, we all lay in our bed at night sometimes thinking about the worst shit, you know what I mean? So when somebody else is also commenting on that, maybe validating a thought you didn't know was true or not, or like bringing up something you hadn't thought about before, like, that's what I mean by raw. Like, there's just a lot of emotions. Yeah. Things that you thought you could get over, things that you can usually stop yourself from crying from. Like, they're just bigger. They're more relevant again. You're preparing to talk about them. You're realizing different things because now you're making sure you want to paint who you are as a person to your therapist accurately. So you're, like, trying to remember things, too. And that is also, like, really difficult.
Yeah. No, 100%. Trying to remember how things, like, trying to be, like, not only remember how things played out in your life, but be neutral in that so you can get real information instead of putting your own biases on it.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the hardest parts of therapy.
Yeah, for sure.
It's probably one of the hardest parts.
For sure.
All right. Then we kind of already talked to them about these, huh?
What's up, Chad?
Okay. So we just talked about therapy bringing up a lot of emotions, right? Mm-hmm. Looking back, is there any patterns that you notice, positive or negative?
What you mean, like
things that show up in the way you react to people or situations or different feelings? You know what I'm saying? That you notice, like, oh, okay, that's something I need to work on.
Yeah, I think now, but I don't like. It's like not so like directly related to therapy. Like I went to a session and she said something, and like now I see it. It's more so like she pointed out other things about me that I was then aware of, which then, like, naturally you just start catching other things about yourself, too. So, yeah, I would say for sure. Yeah. For sure. But I think one of the bigger realizations that I had that, like, stuck with me from therapy about, like, my personality and the way I'm, like, received, or at least my perception of how I'm perceived, if that makes sense, it's like a little more positive, and it was in the beginning, and I was opening up about feeling like, growing up, I felt like I didn't really have a good way to connect to people. Like I always felt like I just struggled with just like regular connections and like, in just regular social settings. Like I always just felt hella awkward. And then also like that kind of trickled into like dating and stuff and just like not knowing how to like engage with people. And one of the things that she pointed out was like, because I would talk about like little quirks that I have, and she was just like, have you ever thought that maybe those things are you protecting yourself? And she was just like, this generation is really different, and like, I don't know. I don't remember exactly what she said, but basically she was just like, maybe, have you ever thought about like maybe this is just the way that you're protecting yourself? And even though it was like not this huge realization, it was also like the first time that I gave myself an opportunity for like grace. And even something that simple really changed the way that I viewed myself and the way that I like moved in those settings, because it helped me to treat myself as more human, and in turn helped me realize that everybody else around me is more human, and it made things like a lot less scary. And it was really just that like little small thing that like changed my perspective like majorly. So that was I would say that's one thing that like really influenced my personality like on a daily basis.
No, that's amazing. That's fucking amazing, man.
Yeah.
Giving yourself grace and making yourself human is probably one of the hardest shit possible.
It's really tough.
Yeah.
It's really tough because you also have to hold yourself accountable, and you have to like sometimes like those bad thoughts are like necessary so that you can get up off your ass. So it's like so it's like finding the balance between actually giving yourself grace versus like being true to yourself and doing what you deserve.
That reminded me, we went to Blood Gangers over there for Auntie Paula's birthday.
Oh yeah.
And I was talking to Auntie Ramona about something. And we was talking about therapy, and I was talking about how like men in therapy, and I said that a lot of times I was talking to Daedrin, which I do gotta check in with him though. Well, a lot of times when men come to like mental health, they think that they got to punish themselves to be better mentally.
Yeah.
So like a thing that you see constantly is like going to the gym.
Yeah.
Like when you think about you go to the gym, you kind of like, don't get me wrong, it's an important part of mental health. Mm-hmm. But how is that the only one you come up with? The only thing that you can think of to help yourself mentally is to destroy your body.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
That's crazy.
And like don't get me wrong, it has its place inside of like mental health and like therapy
Of course.
and the whole holistic journey. But it's like, dog, you got to be able to get multifaceted with your mental health. You have to.
Yeah.
And I remember the look on Eric's face. It was just like, oh shit. I never seen myself as human, is what it said to me.
Yeah.
I never seen myself as human.
Yeah.
And I might be missing out. Not sure, but I might be missing out something.
Which is also a scary realization too.
It's scary. You challenging your identity.
Yeah.
If my identity exists within like, oh, I'm this man and men don't feel emotions and we don't handle shit like that. When we going through shit, we tuck it in, or we go to the gym, or we do this. You don't even give yourself a chance to breathe.
Yeah.
How you gonna love?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? How you gonna love when you don't even know how to love yourself?
Yeah.
That's why I'll be like, man, therapy is like, it could be a start place for all of that shit.
Yeah.
A start place.
It's a really good place for that, especially if you don't have like the family unit in place, or like the family unit who appreciates those types of conversations and things. Like, it's a great place to start. And it opens up a bigger box of being the only emotionally intelligent person, which makes you need to go back to therapy, but like, it's somewhere to start.
Yeah, no.
And you find your people. This all aligns with my like idea of life, where like it really is a selfish journey, and it should truly be about you. And if you're pursuing your life, your love, your happiness, you're gonna naturally find your people who are pursuing the same thing for themselves, and those values that they're looking for align. It's a very, very like natural way to find your people. And it's like you've talked about too, like kicking it with your coworkers, like being around people who just fuck with you, who appreciate you, you know what I mean? Like when you're healed and you're happy, it's so much easier to see where that place is.
Yeah.
So
this is bringing up a lot of thoughts. I was just telling somebody the other day about like the importance of building community that undoubtedly pour into you 100%. And it don't got to be like financial or anything like that. It could be more in the sense of like, oh, that's what you want to do? Oh, you going to do it.
Yeah.
Where I need to be at.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That shit is so important, not only for getting tasks done, but for your confidence. Like if the people around you don't believe in you, your confidence is going to be shit.
Exactly.
And we get addicted to these people that are indifferent. You know what I'm saying? And indifferent, we already know that's unhealthy in itself. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
You gotta make a decision one way or the other, or you just kind of like feeding to the other side.
Yeah.
Damn, I missed what you just said. You said something that was really, really important. Oh no, I know where I want to go. Because this is the part that people like on the internet. They love this shit. I seen it.
Okay.
People won't comment and they won't even like my shit.
Yeah.
But they'll, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They'll talk. Hey, I seen blah 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 blah. Talk about therapy before dating and how it helped you. Because we're gonna interview.
Yeah.
We're gonna interview y'all two together.
Okay.
But right now, talk about therapy before dating and how it got you in the right mind to be able to date from a healthy place.
Well, for starters, like, I think the most important thing is what we just talked about, is seeing yourself as human. Because seeing yourself as human, like I said, gives you an opportunity. Well, not an opportunity, but, like, better perspective around seeing everybody around you is also humans. You know what I mean? And recognizing that, like, for example, today, I've been with my boyfriend for the past fucking 5 days straight. Nigga, waking up, going to sleep, damn near spending the day together, like, and like, it's wonderful, we love each other, but also like, it's a lot of time spent together. And so like, little things will happen where it'll like be kind of annoying, and I will want to get irritated, but I'll first of all check myself, which is a tool that therapy gave me. It helped me to realize that I needed to, like, sometimes Kiari needs to relax. Sometimes Kiara needs to close her mouth, take a second, take a deep breath, and then re-engage. And like, I feel like that's true for a lot of people, but it's something that therapy brought to my attention. But I had to like take a second, relax, and think about the fact that like, that was a little annoying, probably not as annoying as I thought it actually is. And he's probably fucking irritated too, because we, like, basically it gives me an opportunity to fucking think about things like realistically. You know what I mean? I didn't mean to go off on that tangent,
that
but
was perfect. I think that leads into exactly what we're talking about, humanizing the opposite sex.
Yeah,
Talk about that a little bit and how therapy did that.
because we're all people. Zoom in on my face. when I say this, yeah, we're all people. And therapy really is just like, it's humbling. And I think that, again, therapy, I think another effect that it had on my life is not directly related to therapy, but it gave me the tools to like get to where I'm at now is, I was in therapy right before I moved to Denver. And being in therapy gave me the confidence to move to Denver, which allowed me to have all these other experiences that also made me a better person and made dating easier, and gave me an opportunity, again, to engage with people as human beings.
Yeah.
But circling back to your question, sorry, I got a little sideline there. Humanizing the opposite sex is really important. And it's also, like, really sad, too, because you look around at the men around us and the ones who haven't had the opportunity to be treated as just a normal person. And you kind of realize how much of the, like, trauma that's playing out in their lives on a daily basis is directly attributed to the fact that they just haven't been treated as human. And I think that that's really unfortunate. And I think that as a young woman who's thinking about having kids and possibly raising young men and thinking about trying to protect them and allow them to become humans, and try different things and explore themselves and explore the world without being judged or worrying about being criticized by the people that we love that are watching me trying to raise this young man to just be a human, is all really scary. I think, to me, that directly speaks to the differences in the way that men are treated versus women, because it seems really, really tough to protect a man enough to allow him to be a full person, because we just don't give them grace. We don't give y'all nearly enough love or enough space to be yourselves. I have to catch myself on a regular basis, like, thinking, like, man, this nigga is, like, really wearing way too fucking much. Or, like, he's just doing way too fucking much. And, like, I have to, like, remind myself to give him the space. Versus, like, my girlfriends, like, I don't have that issue. And so I think that it's, like, the differences in the way we treat men when it comes to emotions and life and shit is it's really sad. Yeah. Sorry, I got lost.
No, you hit it exactly what I wanted you to talk about.
Damn.
One of the things that I noticed that when I've been dating, since I've been, like, actively dating again, when I say that, I say I want somebody to look at me like I'm human. You know what I'm saying? I don't never give no context, so I want to see how your mind. But I want to see how your mind takes that information in. You know what I'm saying? I want to see if you see dudes as human.
Yeah.
And I've been noticing, like, somebody got back to me. Like, I was thinking about what you said the other day. And you want to be seen as human. Do you feel like women are, like, using you and stuff like that for, like, trying to get your money or something like that? And I'm like, no, that's never, like, I was raised by my uncle who's a pimp. So that never was going to be a thing ever. Yeah. It never was going to be a thing. But it just reminded me, like, not saying it was like she's a bad person or something like that, but it just reminded me that, like, damn, to be seen as a full person that got emotions, that got feelings, it's really, really difficult out here. Yeah. It's really, really difficult. Yeah. And shit, some dudes win off of that. Yeah. Some dudes win really, really well off of that. Yeah. And which makes it even harder to kind of challenge it and change it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I had a thought. I can't find it. But I think that it's unfortunate that was, like, her first, like, that was a response. Especially to say you gave it some thought and that's what you came back with. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, but I understand why that was her response, because
it's what's presented all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, she knows how her girlfriends are too. She knows how girls talk about men, you know what I mean? So, like, she knows, but it's also just, I don't know. It's unfortunate.
You transitioning therapists. I want to talk about that, but I want it to be all you though. I want you to lead it there.
What you mean? Like how I feel about it?
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm sad that I didn't officially get to say goodbye to my previous therapist, so I'm, like, a little sad about that because I really did like her. That was my girl. Yeah. But I'm looking forward to, like, getting a new perspective. Like I said earlier, like, I'm a lot older now than I was when I first started therapy, and I think that the way that I talk about myself and my life is going to be a little different. So it's going to be really nice to get, like, a new perspective and to have a fresh relationship and to kind of mold the picture around who I am now versus, like, everything that I had been through in the past. You know what I mean? When I first started therapy, I was not in like a bad place or anything, but I also wasn't in like a great place. I wasn't super confident in myself. I wasn't super confident in like my life or the direction it was going, but like, you know, I was happy, you know, but like it was very surface level. So, now that I'm starting over again, and that's just, the point of me saying that was the way I presented my life was very just like kind of victim-y, you know what I mean? And I was fresh out of college, and like that's how I paid for college, writing all those personal statements, hella victim-y. And
that's a whole nother conversation we gotta tap into now.
Yeah. So I was just in this like really weird, like I am my trauma kind of place. And so now that I'm not in that kind of place, and I have real fucking shit that I want to fucking talk about, because fuck all that, you know what I mean? Like, that was at this point I'm 30 right now, so that was 35% of my life. You know what I mean? And it definitely impacted a lot of the things that were happening at that time. But now that I'm so much more aware of who I am and how those things impact my life, I don't allow it to get to me, my trauma to get to me the way it does. So now I'm dealing with completely different things. Now it's more just like, all right, we know that because I went through that, I come sometimes act like this. So let's keep that in mind, but this is really the fucking problem. So I'm really looking forward to start having more of those conversations, because I just like, I'm about to be 30. Like, I don't want to keep talking about, like, my trauma. You know what I mean? Like...
That reminds me, I think I showed you before, Maslow hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of got to get past all that shit.
Yeah.
And, like, that shit could look different for everybody. But the top of every pyramid is going to be, like, self-actualization.
Yeah.
And that's the goal. And I feel like that's when people start really kind of, like, oh, yeah, I need to lock the fuck in now. Fuck all the other shit.
Yeah.
I need to lock in.
Yeah. And I'm excited to have somebody help me kind of work through that, because I feel like I'm getting really close to it. Like, things are like a little crazy, but like they're not bad. So, and I'm on my way to something really good. I can feel it. So I'm excited to be working through that.
So give me, what are the things that you were looking for when you're looking for a therapist this time? Like a list. Just name the list off.
It wasn't a very long list. I was still looking for a black woman, and I know that we had talked about, like, you know, the benefits of it being somebody else, but I was still looking for a black woman, and I was looking for somebody who was a little older than my previous therapist, and then also, so my previous therapist came from a social working background, which you helped me realize. This one is... I forget what her background is, but I didn't want another social worker, because nothing wrong with social workers, but like, I just wanted somebody who had a little bit more of a desire for a more in-depth mental health education and experience, you know, because that means that they're still curious, which I think helps to kind of receive what I'm kind of dealing with a little different. Like actively, rather than just trying to help me, it like adds to the experience that they have when they're doing their own research to advance their life.
People miss out on that part though. Like, before I see every client, like I'm literally doing research. Like I'm going through articles. I want to make sure that I'm using the best possible tool. I want to make sure that I'm challenging. Like I consult. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like that shit is so important.
Yeah. I mean, that's how you find a good anything. You know, you want somebody who's a student to what they're learning, because that means that the service that they're giving you, like you said, is it's top tier. It's the newest information. It's the most innovative technology. You know what I mean? Like these are people.
I gotta say this though. Your therapist got to be a student of the game though. That's cold.
Truly.
Student of the game.
Truly.
Yeah. Okay, I'm not gonna say nothing crazy about white therapists. I'm sorry, white therapists. I love y'all.
I had a white therapist, and this is how into therapy I am. I utilized my free healthcare or my healthcare in college and talked to the school therapist consistently. I went to the health center and I was like, y'all said therapy? That should include it, right? Y'all took that little money out of my tuition. And I was seeing a therapist regularly. And I said that to say it was a gay white man. And he was actually cool. He did a good job of challenging my thoughts, as white men do. But it was healthy, and he was still educated in the mental health world, so like it was really good conversation. And I worked through some important things there that, like, you know, had come up after I'd gotten out of therapy from my previous therapist and had remembered and wanted to talk to about somebody. So I actually only talked to him about certain things. So the white therapist, the white men's,
They can do what they gotta do. Our
There's a-
therapist right now is in black, so
Yeah.
surprised the hell out of me. But
Yeah.
it just happened to be what it is.
You know?
You know what I'm saying?